They say safaris are all sunset and lions on demand. Spoiler alert, they're not. This is 3 years of dust, chaos, and the odd leopard pretending it's a house cat. Welcome to my very unscripted safari. Kruger was where it all began, Balule to be exact. I was thrown into the deep end and somehow didn't get eaten. My first elephant on foot, my first lion, my first leopard. Basically every possible way to nearly swallow yourself in the bush. And yet, somehow, I fell in love with it. The chaos, the dust, the magic. It stuck with me. And no matter where I went after that, Kruger always felt like home. I worked at a tiny boutique lodge. Game drives, maintenance, chasing elephants out of gardens at 2 in the morning, cooking for guests, basically everything. And yes, it was hard work, but also probably the best experience of my life. Every bit of it mattered. I learned more in those months than I could have ever imagined. Kruger is one of the few places in South Africa where you'll see prides of lions, 17 strong. I remember one morning, one of my very first drives I ever did, spotting a single lion just lounging in the road. And then, as if summoned by some wild script, 14 more appeared. It was insane. I didn't even have the camera I have now, just an old Sony A390 and my iPhone. But somehow the memory didn't need megapixels. Countless lunches were cooked, dinners were served, and yes, a braai or 100. Because no safari is complete without stories around the fire. Elephants chased out of gardens, lions on drives, wild dogs at night, hyenas running past the house. It was untamed, beautiful, and wild. It stuck with me. Every single sighting, every chaotic moment, every quiet one. It built something in me. One morning in Balule, before the guests even had their tea and coffee, I heard lions calling in the distance, and I thought, I know exactly where that is. So I went out with a plan. Hours of tracking in the dark, following prints, listening, waiting. First the vivid monkeys started alarm calling, then the jackals, then the birds, and then, out of the mist, a lioness stepped onto the plains. It was one of those sightings that stays burnt into you. I even got a photo, though with the old camera I had back then, hardly did it any justice. Still, it was probably my most memorable moment in the Kruger. Balule will always have that.
Now.
On my last day in the Kruger as a guide, before heading off to Pilanesberg and starting new adventures, I went on one final game drive, and it was like the Kruger itself wanted to say goodbye. A whole herd of elephants, about 30 of them, walked past the vehicle, one by one. Some sniffed the car, one even thrust its trunk right up into my face. And in that moment, it wasn't just a goodbye, it was spiritual. It's why the Kruger will always feel like home to you. After Kruger, I moved back to the Pilanesberg, closer to family, closer to home. Because no matter how beautiful the sightings are, being out in the middle of nowhere eventually takes its toll. I tried the full-scale Operation Safari Lodge life for a month, and quickly realized it wasn't for me. Too much noise, not enough bush. I'd rather spend hours tracking a leopard than chasing shift schedules, and have the chance to create the kind of experience for guests that I also craved. So I shifted to Black Rhino Game Reserve, back to a boutique lodge where you do everything. And that's where everything I learned in the Kruger started to truly take shape. Pilanesberg has always been special. It's where I had my first black rhino on foot while doing my trails guide training with master mentor Bennett de Klerk. It felt good to be back. One of my first sightings back in the Pilanesberg, now an official field guide role, was a pride of lions. Of course, my guest didn't see them, but I did. On the way back to my room, typical. After moving over to Black Rhino, I invested in a new camera, and suddenly the quality of my work and my headaches improved drastically. Black Rhino itself can be quiet, which often meant marathon day drives into the park. 11 hours of entertaining paying guests might sound a bit brutal, but honestly, I lived for it. People told me I'd see fewer lions here than in Kruger. They were wrong. Fewer lions, maybe, but I saw them more often. Leopards, though, that was another story. Compared to Balule, Pilanesberg had a lot more, which made you want to work a lot harder to find them, which, of course, only made me slightly obsessed. At Black Rhino, my obsession with leopards properly took over. Guests didn't come to see the inside of the lodge. They came to see lions, cheetahs, and hopefully a leopard. So I made it my mission to make sure every single person left with their expectations met, or preferably blown apart. And there were plenty of great sightings: lions, cheetahs, and the occasional leopard. The best of all was Tali and her sub-adult cubs taking down a full-grown kudu cow right in front of my lodge. I drove 2 meters, switched off the engine, and sat there for nearly an hour. Not that I could have gone anywhere. Watching a kill from start to finish is something you don't forget. But obsession has its price. My relentless focus on cats and guest experience eventually caused some friction, and just like that, my time at Black Rhino came to an end. After Black Rhino, I finally admitted the truth. I wasn't in this for the lodge walls or polite small talk. I was in it for leopards. So I stopped pretending otherwise. I went freelance, chasing cats wherever the tracks led: Namibia, the Kalahari, Kruger, Pilanesberg, you name it. If it had spots, I was there. Somewhere along the way, the cameras got better, the skills got sharper, and the obsession turned professional. At this point, I'm basically a leopard stalker with a camera license, and in the last few months, the addiction's paid off with some unforgettable sightings caught on film. A lot of that attributed to like-minded people with an even worse obsession. In chasing this obsession, I've been lucky to work alongside people just as mad about the bush as I am. One of them is Debbie Lee Fendick, who runs Unscripted Safaris. She's fueled my leopard addiction, sharpened my eye, and many of these sightings came through the adventures we've shared together. Becoming a freelancer changed everything. Suddenly there was no lodge schedules, no tick box game drives, just freedom. Freedom to go where people actually wanted to go. And the time to properly track something instead of rushing back for breakfast.
So he followed his tracks all the way to a basically completely different part of the reserve. He did cut into this block now here as well. So I deployed the chipmunk tactic, which means getting a bit of a better view. There's some giraffes in the distance, which is a good thing because they can basically see just as far. So if there's anything in the very immediate close proximity, they will definitely let us know. Still haven't given up yet.
I've spent entire days chasing spoor up and down, hour after hour, until finally, under the pitch black darkness, a lion revealed himself. The photos, honestly, rubbish. ISO through the roof, shutter speed slower than a bureaucrat in home affairs. But the memory, unbeatable. And then Kruger leopards strolling past my car like they owned the place. Raptors on every tree, hyenas laughing at me from the roadside. The sort of madness you live for. Now, it's about sharing Africa the way it should be. Raw, unscripted, and absolutely unforgettable. The continent doesn't just get under your skin, it rewires you. I've started something called Wildlife Beyond the Lens. Not just another blog, but a place where the stories, the botched photos, and the ridiculous hours of tracking finally make sense. Because this isn't about me being a guy at a lodge anymore. It's about giving people a reason to come back to where it all began. Africa, the cradle of life, the land of too much dust and not enough coffee. But once it grabs you, you're done for. I really hope to see you out there.